Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, and check out our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And finally, check out our new Altar Sleeves. You can get your custom sleeve image of the Magic Mics crew right now at altarsleeves.com/magicmics. And at the end of the month, if our awesome patrons, God bless all of y'all, happen to be at a $10 or higher pledge. You can edit your pledge now between now and the end of the month, and you can edit it after if you want to. Bump that pledge to $10. We will give you a code for a free altar sleeve. You can go get you one of those.
Get you.
And then you can throw some other ones in there because they got some really cool altar sleeves. Check out their website, altarsleeves.com/magicmics.
I'm still not centered,
it's
Evan.
Breaking news on the podcast about the altered sleeves. So
goodness.
If you bump up, and we'll post it in the Discord too, but
we'll
tweet about it and all that stuff.
I see you, Poppy. Thank you for the sub.
Thankless. That's right. Well, look, I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello, everybody. Shout out to Set L, who was mentioning moons over my hammy, which is my go-to dish at Denny's.
Ruben Bressler.
I do not go to Denny's, so I don't have.
Denny's comes to you.
We could go to Denny's.
Right. Denny's comes to you. That's
true.
what we're talking about.
Actually, that used to be my I did used to go to Denny's a lot because there was a Denny's at the end of the block of the Saving Throw Show studio. So I'd eat dinner at Denny's every Monday for right before I went into the studio for the show.
Right.
Yeah, that was my life.
You got to look at the rocks he's got because he's Ruben from down the block at
Come
Denny's.
on now.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm stretching. I'm stretching. Okay, leave me alone.
That was.
It's almost as bad as your drink joke.
I heard something that was so far of a stretch.
You know, there is an argument that if we were to do this show on Thursdays, because of the way that Wizards does their live streams on Thursdays, we would have more recent information, but we have the information that we have. So we're going to talk all about Strixhaven, and let me tell you, there ain't a whole lot else going on, so we're going to talk about Strixhaven, y'all. That's what we're doing here. Wizards released some details and a whole cycle of rares. I was a little blown away by what's going on here, but let's get started here by noting that they introduced us to Strixhaven. There are colleges at Strixhaven. This ain't no Hogwarts. It's college time, y'all.
Yeah.
This is going to be
higher learning.
Yes, this is going to be an enemy color set, which they haven't done since Shadowmoor, and that's awesome because they talk about the colleges here. Red, white being Lorehold, and they have Lorehold Command. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. It's a white, a red, and 3 generic mana. You choose 2. Just like in Khans of Tarkir, it's an instant rare. Choose 2. You create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn.
Okay, but you're burying the lead there. Look at old girl in the corner who's using a scroll gun. Do you see that? That is
using the scroll gun.
Incredible.
Firing the knowledge at you.
That's
right.
Well, it also lets you play a Lightning Helix, deal 3 damage, something, gain 3 life, and sacrifice a permanent, then draw 2 cards. You can do any of those 4 things. That's pretty good for 5 mana. A lot of people were upset this is 5 mana, and I'm like, are you serious? Have you read this card?
And in red-white. I mean, it's a lot of, particularly the drawing 2 cards is a big thing that you don't really get in red-white. And if you really need to get a body on the board, it can help with that. I don't really see. I mean, it is 5 mana. It's a million mana.
It's a lot of mana.
I don't really see it for the command. But I'm all about Lorehold the college. I feel like I would be a Lorehold DN. I feel like that's where I would end up. This is the Indiana Jones. Sort of daring archaeologists kind of college, and that really appeals to me.
Well, I mean, as Kendra noted, anyways, she started blasting. It's fine. Take the scroll gun.
So
anyway,
thank you
I
for the gift
blasting.
subs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, the red and blue are the Prismari, and they are the theater kids of Strixhaven. Let's go back just 2 seconds.
Boy.
The Loreholds are the diligent researchers and daring adventurers. The passionate scholars obsessed with history. The Prismari, as we know, are the theater kids. Magic's how they express themselves. Their spells can be spectacles and all the world's a stage and all that good stuff. Well, Prismatic Command, for a red, a blue, and a generic mana, again, a rare instant, you choose 2. It deals 2 damage to any target, so shock. Draw 2, discard 2. Target player creates a treasure token or destroy target artifact.
This is playable.
That's a lot of stuff.
3 mana?
3 mana.
Yeah, so 3 mana instant, deal 2 to any target, and then instant speed careful study. I think that's probably worth it. The treasure token, I don't know about the treasure token, but it's ramp, kind of. And, destroy target artifacts to just in case your opponent has something that's you really need to deal with at the time.
Right.
The Prismari... sorry, go ahead.
You got Shock, Shatter, Catalog... And I can't remember.
Catalog is discard 1, so this is careful study.
Oh, you're right, it is careful study.
And make a treasure token. So, I think it's worth it. At instant speed, it seems worth it. I really like the leaning into the sort of creativity and inspirational side of red-blue. Much different than Is It. Much closer to Keranos, with the sort of innovation and creation side of red blue, which I think is
it's not about
great.
like we're the plumbing, we keep the lights on, we're the electrical.
Sure, both are fine, but
are okay.
giving a different angle to the color pairs is really interesting.
And that was one of the things I saw people get excited about with this is that, I mean, personally, I've never thought of myself as being Boros, like, that whole military, the cards that have been in Boros previously, those have never really resonated with me. But, when you see the lore hold and you see the way that they're being pitched as sort of the Indiana Jones, like that gives people who don't normally identify with those colors another opportunity to do so. And I think that's really cool, as opposed to just sort of being retreads of, well, it's a military, it's raw, it's aggression. Right. It's like, well, no, and that's cool.
Lore hold is extremely different from Boros. I mean, I don't really identify with the formation and the honor and the pageantry of Boros, but I mean, I'm much more in line with the kind of daring Rick O'Connell type.
This is Wizards R&D has just been desperately hoping to find something for red and white that's not, make a bunch of tiny dudes, play a bunch of burn spells, play a couple pump spells or glorious anthems, like give red and white something to do, let them, draw cards in their own way, which red off the top of the library, white, who knows what they're going to do. They've talked of different things that they're going to do in the future. But yeah, I'll take it. Let's do it. Moving on here to the next school, the next college, as it were. This would be Quandrix, our blue-green, because we need more good blue-green cards.
Listen, you can't just not print a blue-green college if you're going to have an enemy set.
I know. Well, math is magic. These are in the ingenious math magicians.
This is a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it.
Yeah, because, again, with Simic, it was really all about the body and, genetics and mutations and adaptation and evolution and, genetic engineering and dare I say, even eugenics in some cases.
Right.
And so this appears to be more about the mind as opposed to the form, which is a nice departure.
Yeah, so Quandrix Command here is another rare charm, super charm, as it were, a blue, a green, and a generic mana for an instant...
And also a fine drag name. I mean...
Quandrix Command.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, Quandrix Command.
Quandrix Command.
Yeah.
Quandrix is a good first name. I like that.
It's a nice one. Quandrix Command says, choose to return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. That's interesting. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature, or target player shovels up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library.
Very difficult to gauge this card. I feel like a
some
null,
of their parts type thing.
Yeah, a null for a blue. 2+1/+1 counters is a lot of +1/+1 counters on a command.
It's the green and generic mana part of it,
right.
Sure. Yeah.
The shuffling is not great. And return target creature or planeswalker is super interesting. Like, the best way that you're going to take advantage of this is bouncing their 4-mana planeswalker in response to their 5-mana enchantment, right? Or countering their Showdown of the Skald and bouncing their 3-mana creature. So it's this card's very difficult to gauge. I can't tell if this is going to be very good or very bad.
Right. This is one of those that it has to be like, it's a toolbox, but it has to be the right toolbox for the right problem.
Right.
But if the right problems show up, this could be a fantastic card.
And shout out to, having a woman of color be your figurehead, in that one image and also in front of the card. That's really nice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So math is magic for y'all, but the Silverquills, oh boy, the big booby goth peeps of the Magic World.
Wow.
No, the goth people are the Golgari ones.
The Golgari are the goth bio-majors.
Yeah. Okay.
The Silverquills.
I got a lot of that vibe here. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just got a lot of that vibe
I wouldn't say goth
here.
so much
I would like to think I would be the Golgari, of course, but I would be a Silverquill.
I think you'd be a Silverquill.
I'd be a Silverquill.
The Silverquills wield the magic of words, from inspiring battle poetry to biting arcane insults. Stylish, intimidating, and tirelessly competitive, these mages are born leaders with a razor-sharp wit and natural charisma that can be used for good or ill. Mm-hmm.
I'll read a bitch.
Sure, that's what they're about. Yeah, Silverquill.
That's my college right there.
Silverquill is the Bard College.
Yeah,
that's
like
college.
The cutting words. And the Vicious Mockery College, which is super interesting for Black-White. Like a totally different take on Black-White than we've seen with Athreos, than we've seen with the Orzhov, than we've seen with how Black-White was treated on Dominaria way back in like Invasion and all of that. This is a much different type of Black-White than we've ever seen, and I'm all about it. I think that having a Bard school. Being like the snarky, not goth, but like the Crow, right? Like that guy.
Well, that's still. I mean, you mean emo? Because there's a difference between emo and goth.
But like the deep artistic side of that.
Well, the Silverquill Command is the first sorcery of these. For a black, a white, and 2 generic mana, it's a rare sorcery. You choose 2. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn, so that's a little Elspeth in there. Return target creature card with mana value, 2 or less. Hey, that's a new thing. From your graveyard to the battlefield. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life, or target opponent sacrifices a creature. That's a lot for 4 mana, but it's also 4 mana. That's a lot of mana, too.
Yeah, at sorcery speed.
Right.
Akroma's Blessing, +3/+3 and flying, is 3 mana, but nobody really wants to pay 3 mana for it.
Right.
Return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's also tough to gauge, because I don't think we've ever seen that on its own on a card.
They've put it on various creatures and stuff. And,
right. Yeah. And another command, I think.
The
Orzhov Charm, I think.
Orzhov Charm brings back a 1-drop.
Yeah.
But the blue, the Ojutai command, I think brings back a 2-drop. Because I seem to recall playing Ojutai command and getting back a Jace. Draw a card, lose a life is 1 mana. Target opponent sacrifices a creature's 2 mana. And those are probably the best 2 effects on the card that you're overpaying for. I don't really see it for Silverquill Command.
And you're right, Ojutai's Command did instantly return a creature card with a converted mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a little bit more in line with what Black and White does, is the reanimation stuff, which is kind of cool. And some Orzhov did some of this stuff too. So I'm not expecting too much of the flavor in these commands per se, versus like trying to get a feel of what they're doing. Witherbloom, hey, black-green, Aaron. They're the goth bio-majors. Okay, these people straight up goth. They say
I'm not goth at all.
Right, okay.
So that kind of took me out of the illusion a little bit, was why is it going to be goth? But otherwise, they're cool.
I mean...
Yeah, and they are much more the Simic kind of people would go to Witherbloom.
I mean,
their motto is "Get your hands dirty." Like
that's true, but I mean, the Simic it was my understanding that the Simic were still, if not clean, then methodical. Whereas it seems like the Witherbloom really revel in like the mess of it, where it's like, you're enhancing nature, you're exploiting it, you're riding zombie crocs. There's something subtle about this group right here. Like they could be doing similar things, but I feel like the Simic would be the type to like wash your hands before surgery and like do all these things. And I don't see the Witherbloom doing that. I mean, hanging out in the swamp, making grim jokes. It's like that's probably the last thing on their mind.
Right.
It's fair.
Simics still get ooey gooey. They just wash up first and after. It's cool. Well, Witherbloom, quote, "Get your hands dirty" being the motto.
Love it.
Has the Witherbloom Command for just a black and a green mana. It's a rare sorcery that says choose 2. Target player mills 3 cards. Then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Okay. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn, and target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think this card is the winner of the command cycle.
It's cheap.
Sorcery speed, so it's very difficult to gauge. But destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. That's 2 mana worth of value right there.
Except Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, exactly. Kill Grafdigger's Cage, kill
that
your
crappy
2-drop.
Keystone they gave us, the Rune Stone.
Yeah, the Rune Stone,
exactly.
I think that, and then on top of that, get back a fetch land, kill your mana dork, pad your mana again. You know,
put
if you're
stuff
playing
in your
against
graveyard,
a red
which you
deck,
like to do.
Exactly. Put stuff in your get more stuff going in your graveyard.
I think it would have been better. The -2/-1 is really curious because if you bump that up to -2, we're talking you can kill Deathrite Shamans, you can kill Containment Priests. I mean, but you can also get rid of a Yixel Jailer with that. So I will take that.
Yeah, -3, -1 is such a strange combination.
The weirdest. Yeah. Okay, I mean it's fine, but it's sorcery speed -1 toughness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fine. It's fine. Well,
it's good for dealing with like an Anax. If you need to attack through an Anax.
I think by default it seems to be the strongest one because it's the cheapest one. You know.
Sure.
I would argue the Is It one would be. I predict the Is It one or the Prismari one will see more play just because Electrolyze was a thing for how long in those Jessamine control decks, and so this feels like a little bit of a juiced up version of that. So I would say the Prismari one is most likely to see play, followed by this one, and then so forth.
I agree with you. I think the Prismari one is the most. It's the one that you can compare the easiest to another command, in my opinion, which is Kolagon's command.
Yeah,
I think it's like they are very, very, very close in both power level and usability. And so that one is easier to predict that it will be good. Witherbloom Command and Quandrix Command are a lot tougher to gauge. Silverquill Command and Lorehold Command are probably too expensive.
Well, moving on here to something that Wizards is like, don't call them masterpieces, but everyone calls them masterpieces.
Sure.
The Mystical Archive is coming. This is a litany of spells from simple mind spells to powerful and deadly spells and yada yada. And they're putting these in packs. Let's see here. They have more details on the Mystical Archive. Oop, and I clicked something dumb and it screwed it up. Dang it.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Embarrassing, I hope.
That's no. I mean,
no, it's just
just on the Wizards website.
Good heavens.
Okay.
Yeah, but so we have the Mystical Archive, and the cards that we know of in the Mystical Archive thus far are Demonic Tutor, Opt, and Swords to Plowshares, sharing an interesting style of border. Just a completely different kind of border, too. Looking like a page of an illuminated folio, essentially, is what they're trying to go for here.
Right.
And that there are a couple of students that we've met before. Rowan and Will, apparently, are at the school, as we see Professor Onyx happen to be sifting through several tomes right here with students Rowan and Will. Hey, look at that on your journeys. You didn't get turned into elks. Good for you, kids.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't really they don't really resonate with me, but it's obvious that Wizards really wants them to be a thing. Is there anybody here that cares about Will and Rowan? Because
it's fine.
It's tough to.
Well, note before we get back down to the Mystical Archive, I would note quickly there are going to be 5 commander decks, one for each school.
That's cool.
Which is going to be pretty cool, which is nice. The packaging here for the set booster boxes will go down here, and there's going to be different special theme boosters for each school, which is also cool. Let's see here. The Mystical Archive details. Here we go. So you'll receive 1 copy in each draft booster and each set booster, and at least 3 of these in each collector booster. But they ain't done. Because just like War of the Spark had custom Japanese planeswalkers 50% of the time, have 50% of the time Japanese variants. Go ahead and chitter chat about these while I get them on the screen.
So the Japanese alternate art versions of the Mystical Archive, there's going to be Japanese alternate art versions of all of the different cards, all 63 cards of the Mystical Archive will feature both the regular art that we saw before and Japanese alternate art versions. And they showed us the Swords to Plowshares, the Opt, and the Demonic Tutor. And that Demonic Tutor in particular is
look at this
Demonic Tutor is incredible.
God.
Yeah. Just absolutely spectacular. And you look at the art and it's inspired by traditional Japanese art. All of these you can see styles of these paying homage to Japanese art from the past 1,000 years. And I think that these are absolutely gorgeous.
So this is their opportunity to, reprint sweet cards, reprint cards they couldn't sort of put anywhere else. They can call it whatever they want because it's part of the Mystical Archive, so whatever. But to have an entire extra set of unique promos, you're only going to get them out of Japanese packs. All of a sudden, the Japanese boxers are going crazy. War of the Spark, at least as I recall, was the best-selling set in Japan, not close, and obviously they would like to recreate that,
right?
Which would be nice. Maybe Ikoria beat it because of the Godzilla thing, but regardless. War crushed, and crushed, this could crush just as much, and getting 3 of these things in every single collector booster is a lot.
And buried there at the bottom, there is one additional note. Both the regular and Japanese versions of Mystical Archive cards will come in foil. And, found only in collector's boosters, the Foil-Etched treatment.
Ooh.
So, Mystical Archive Foil-Etched Japanese promotional versions of cards. Oof. We talk about to the moon.
Tell you what.
Those are going to be hundreds of dollars out of the pack.
Yes, this is going to be, this just to me looks just exactly like what happened with War. War of the Spark, there's going to be one of these artworks, maybe Demonic Tutor, but one of these artworks is going to be like the hot stuff that everyone wants, and the foil-etched version is going to be very, very, very expensive. But overall, the fact that we have a mystical archive to start with, we have all this information about packaging. Thank you so much, Wizards, because I try to sell your products every day at coolstuffinc.com, and sometimes I don't have pictures of them. But to know that there's 5 commander decks, one for each school, which is awesome. And, more commander decks weren't really expected, certainly not that many when we only had 2 just recently from Kaldheim. But hey, all the schools, all the commander decks, why not?
Yeah,
seems good.
This is the period of time where I don't know which cards are in the commander decks and which cards are going to be in packs. So I always get confused during that particular section of preview season. But I'm excited that they're doing it because these are clearly they worked, and I'm happy that Wizards of the Coast found something that is a pre-con that they can release along with the set, because they've sort of been trying. They've had different solutions, and they all kind of die after 6 months.
They had Planeswalker decks, and those were whatever.
Right. And it seems like they've figured it out now. So maybe they'll keep these commander decks going for a little while.
Well, they finally
get some stability.
They've been moving this ship ever so slowly to be as commander focused as they can, and we're starting to see it come to fruition here. Now, they note here on their Twitter account that Mystical Archive cards are a bonus card on each draft booster and set booster. They don't replace another card of the same rarity in a pack, so you can get multiple rare cards in a draft booster. And they say while some of the Mystical Archive cards are reprints of things previously common, like Opt, the Archive only has uncommon, rare, and mythic rare expansion symbols. Unsurprisingly, the higher the rarity, the less common you're going to find them, y'all.
Okay.
And let's see here. One last note that we didn't mention: the Mystical Archive cards that will appear in Magic Online Strixhaven Draft in the same way they do in physical boosters, 1 per pack as a bonus card. So, and then they later mentioned, they said that we're not going to bring all of the Mystical Archive spells into Historic, which then led to people going, could we please have Swords to Plowshares in Historic? Could we please have Demonic Tutor in Historic? That would be insane.
Yeah. Please, no.
That would be insane. But yeah, bringing those old cool spells into sweet old formats, I'm all about it. Yeah. But note, this was a question of why are we learning all of this stuff about Strixhaven in February when it's not going to show up until April?
Didn't Kaldheim come out, 2 weeks ago?
Exactly. 3, maybe? 2, something?
Very, very recently.
2.5? Well, either way, someone had asked Mark Rosewater on his Tumblr blog, why was Strixhaven leaked so early? First of all, it's not leaked when Wizards tells you the information.
Exactly.
That's just them telling you the information.
It was previewed.
Yes, they preview that info for you. They said they like to get some teasers rather to help stores have a better gauge of how much their customers might want. And that's a great thing because oftentimes, stores are just flying blind. And there are certain things like supplies, for example, where a lot of times you just have to order them blind, or you have to wait so long that, by the time you figure out which is the hot one, well, it's already sold out because everybody else was waiting to figure out which one was which. So more information soon is great. I was a little surprised by it, but I'm certainly not unhappy about it, Show me more rare cycles. Let's do it. That's cool with me. All right. Let's move on here to Gather the Townsfolk. Goodness gracious. Just want to note here that it is Mark Rosewater's 1,000th week of writing. He celebrated 1,000 weeks. This man is a machine, I tell you.
The 1,000th are making magic specifically.
Yes, the 1,000th of writing of making magic, because he still does other stuff. The podcast,
he does a bunch
and
of
the
other
comic strips, and the fact that he's the lead designer of Magic the Gathering. Like, the man fills his time creatively, and this was great. And so check out his review of the last 100 articles of the 1,000 articles that he has written. That's incredible. All right. There was a terrific Twitter thread. It's in the show notes. I'll link you guys right there in the chat, from Mike Wildspeaker, who talked about representation in their high school game club. Oh, please tell me about it.
Yeah, so Mike is from Wisconsin. We've gone to pre-releases together. I actually met him through Tappy. And Mike is a teacher at a high school. I think he teaches science. And he has an after-school club, a game club, where depending on how well his students do in their studies, they can come to his game club and they can play games and they can play Magic. And people from all over Twitter have sent him cards and sent him boxes and other items they're not using anymore. And he just took a moment to talk about what representation in Magic means to him, as most of the students in his game club are people of color. And so he talks about how recent efforts have led to more kids coming to the game club. They're playing games, and he's also learning something as well. And he's very clear about that. Like, he's very clear to start the thread off with, I'm not a member of these groups, and so this is just my experience from my vantage point. But he's just trying to show you that when people say representation doesn't matter, this is proof. This is these are kids that you see the Teferi in the background, and you see people trying to get them other cardboard cutouts and other materials, and so you can clearly see how motivated these kids are, correlating with the push to make Kaya more visible and Teferi more, and then the new Black is Magic product and things like that. Like, it's all doing what it's supposed to do.
Right, and this is one of those it's small moves. I mean, it's not going to be this huge wave overnight that changes stuff. It's just little bits at a time, like sort of bringing people in and saying like, hey, you're included too. This person looks like you. That person looks like the other person. Let's get all together and play some Magic. Rock it out.
Yeah.
So congrats to him, and great job for that.
And fabulous job by the school.
And I remember even when we went to we did the Throne of Eldraine pre-release. Remember pre-releases, you guys? Remember when we used to go to a physical location and play with paper cards?
Talk to people.
He brought one of his students to her first pre-release. She'd never been to an actual pre-release before, and he was like, this is so and so, and she had a really, really good time. And so just opening that pipeline of like they start getting interested in school, and then they want to play it outside of school, and then before you know it, you might have like a full-fledged Magic player.
Absolutely.
He also wanted to note, speaking of the before times, that these photos are from the before times.
Yeah.
And so don't worry too much about that. But yeah, I mean, it should go without saying, but it doesn't, and so we are saying it, that seeing representation makes people want to be that thing. Like, you see people who look like you doing things, and you go, oh, that person is like me, I can do that thing.
And not just doing things, but thriving, Yes. There have been so many examples of, a lot of times when you see a minority being represented, it's usually negative, like where it's, they might be a criminal, or they might be a villain, or they might be something like that. But when you see Teferi happy with his family, on a card, and you can have that card, it's not just that you exist, it's also that you're thriving. Because people need to see that you can not only see people like them, but also see them being happy, and that you can be happy too.
I don't know if it was directly related, but someone had noted that there was a child of color who was reading like Lord of the Rings, and they're like, there was nobody in there, certainly not any heroes that looked or sounded like me, but I come over to this game and hey, look, there's wizards and stuff. It looks like me and doing powerful things and being heroic, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings is formative, but it's formative for white men because it's all white men. Like, I get it. And so you need to have this exploration.
Yeah. And that was why Alesha was so important to the trans folks, is because every time you saw... Also, if you've never seen it, there's a documentary on Netflix called Disclosure. You should watch it. It gives you a great history as to where trans people have been. But, to see, typically when trans people are in media, it's like, we're sex workers, or we're the killer on Nip Tuck. Just not great representations. And so to have a positive warrior trans person with no baggage attached was just a beautiful thing.
Really quickly, I don't know if you've seen Lindsay Ellis's new video where she goes over trans representation in media, and it's brutal.
Oh, the early years were really dark
for so long in the 90s, and she shows you all the examples, and it's just
we were always getting killed.
Always the murderer, always the bad person, always the sex worker, and making people sick when they realize someone was that way. Oh my God, it was awful. It was
and
bad.
if they're not, then it is just tokenism. It would be the one. Black person, Asian person, Jewish person, gay person, trans, whatever.
Well,
put Lindsay on a pedestal and not allowed to have any personality traits.
Yeah, Lindsay Ellis is great. Her work is great. Go check it out. It was fantastic. There was a different video made by someone named EIN here on YouTube. They only have 46 subscribers, so get on that. Go check them out, because they had a great video, particularly a great name for a video. Sometimes you just got to have the sick title, and this title was fantastic. It was called The Name Economy, Magic the Gathering's Hidden Crisis. And first of all,
this was a fun little video.
It was a great little video.
It's a cute little topic, and we've talked about it in passing of man, when are they going to run out of names for creatures or whatever? Exactly. And this video kind of went into the nitty gritty of the numbers for it, particularly as we've noted. First breaking news on this podcast: more Magic cards with new names are being printed than ever before. And as many new card names have been made in the last 5 years as were in the previous 15 or something like that.
Right, something crazy.
So
to go from an average of 700 new names a year, I think it was, to something, well over 1,000, 1,500 or something. You're going to have a situation where who gets the sweet one word title, right? Which spell gets to be that? Because when you look back and you go, wow, they wasted a lot of one word awesome spell names on some piece of crap cards from back in Legends
garbage.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So how are you gonna use those finite resources? Because everything else is going to be so and so's blank spell and so and so's might and whatever. But you only get one fire and they've already used it up. You only get one ice and it's already gone. Right. Yeah. So there's only one lightning bolt, and how many different ways are we going to say
lightning bolt and fireball?
Yes, they did.
They got a little unlucky with burnout.
But even Fireball went to remember the X, Y, and Z or whatever, or red, Y, X or whatever. It was crazy, and that was weird and off-putting.
That was weird. But I mean, at least Fireball is an indelible word. They get lucky sometimes. You got lucky with Days.
Right. They tried to replace it with Blaze, right? And Blaze is not Fireball, and it's not as evocative and nostalgia and all this stuff. Anyway, the point is the video goes over the fact that we're using names like crazy. Some good examples as to how and why. Maybe the Godzilla fix is a way to reprint old cards with different names, so you don't have to have two Eldamiri's Call in Modern if you name it whatever and Trostani's Call and just have Eldamiri's Call as the Godzilla little
as
frame
the subtitle.
Thing. Yeah, underneath the words. That's the thing.
Can we do that with the reserve list too? Is that our solution?
Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love it.
Toski's Tropical Island.
Heyo. Well, moving on here to some desperate ravings. This was interesting. There was an arena open, the limited arena open. I did not play. You guys didn't play it, did you?
No, did not play. But I was paying.
Arena?
I mean, Aaron. Could have gotten a hair, $22 worth of gems. Let's do this.
I was
arena and sealed. Absolutely.
I know,
not.
right?
I mean, I considered it when I saw the buzz around it. This is the first Magic tournament in a while that I can remember the Twitter buzz of Magic being about an ongoing tournament.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which was a weird sense of remembering how Magic used to be. It was
right. The inclusion.
Almost.
We feel like we're having this experience shared. That's weird. Well, it isn't without some people being a little... entitled is the word to put it.
This was so stupid.
I won't mention their name or whatever, but someone had mentioned, hey, they were really surprised, disappointed that their favorite content creators had failed to stream, and they said something like, why black out your Super Bowl at Lords of Limited, at Marshall, at LSD?
That was the big problem. Don't tag them. Don't tag them. You can shout into the multiverse, but don't aim your bullhorn directly at their ear hole.
because
Very stupid.
LSV was rightfully not having it. Who noted his decision not to stream had nothing to do with EV. He has a clear track record of playing for high stakes with lots of people watching.
This was also a weird week for somebody else who tried coming for Patrick Sullivan too, where he had made this video for Star City, and somebody was like, "Boy, am I glad you don't do anything with magic design," and he's like, "I do work with magic design," and so it was just a good week for clapbacks.
Well, LSV was like, "I don't owe you an explanation. This tweet is entitled as poop," and that's how.
And that's just what's the word I'm looking for? The embellishment of this is your Super Bowl. Girl, it's a sealed open.
It's a sealed arena open. Calm down.
Yeah, I mean, what about if that's your Super Bowl? I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go from there? World Championships? Like what?
This is not your Super Bowl. This is your RNF Carriers Bowl.
And, LSD is certainly multifaceted, but he's also never sold, to my knowledge, he's not a full-time streamer. So where would you have gotten the expectation that he was going to be doing this? Like, it just seemed like the expectation. I don't know where this person got this idea from.
It's funny. Someone in the chat here, Granada notes, says, anyone really want to be associated with card design these days? Yeah. You know why? Okay. Because Wizards is selling more Magic cards than ever before. Magic is bigger than it's ever been. Magic is crushing every record it's had before.
We have our theories as to...
Like it or not, the sales are there. That's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm going to
say. Scoreboard.
I mean, I hate to put it that way sometimes, but it's just,
But
when you're sitting there if you're in front of the executives of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro Elite the brass, that's the language you have to speak in. You can't just be I like language, I like Magic, and I have feelings. They don't care. Yeah. They just don't.
Yeah, and I do want to mention something in the chat. Somebody's saying, well, I don't mind you direct tweeting at people as long as you aren't being unreasonable. That person was being unreasonable. Like, why are you tweeting at me and expecting me to dance for you? Like, you don't do that. Like, it's one thing to interact with somebody and say, hey, good morning. It's another thing to be like, where's my content? Absolutely not. No, there is no universe in which that's defensible. None.
And there's also the point of they're allowed to have fun playing Magic. Right. They're allowed to do it without an audience.
Right.
Like, I would like to think that I can play Magic. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Magic streamer, so this doesn't really work. But I would like to think that I'm allowed to enjoy things that I do for content without an audience.
Things, Ruben. Yeah, you're not allowed.
I understand that.
It's not.
I've been tagged by a person telling me that I need to stream everything I do all the time. It is. Thank you for the raid, Les Alex.
Thank you.
You mean Les Alex?
Les Alex.
Sounded like me over there, buddy.
I don't know, it looked like Les Alex to me.
Hey, y'all.
But
Sally
yeah, exactly. So I think that it's just sort of we have a different perspective on it because we make content for a living, but it is worth discussing.
Right. We recognize that this is clearly over a boundary, and maybe not all people recognize that it's over a boundary, but it is.
And in that person's defense, though, like he did gather himself after the fact and was like, I didn't mean for it to come off like that. And so, he at least showed some self-awareness, whereas we have seen some examples of people who, when confronted with that, have really just sort of doubled down and you can't reason with them. And it sounds like this person did take something away from the experience.
That's good. All right, so moving here really quickly to splash damage. If you guys want to talk about any of these topics, I wanted to mention really quickly that Pokemon has overtaken Magic the Gathering in orders at a distributor level. This came out on the industry website icv2.com, and that is a huge deal. I mean, in the first time ever, literally ever, in 21 years now, Pokemon has surpassed Magic the Gathering, and that's because it don't take long to figure out why. As you go to the pricing of all the new Pokemon products are stupid. I mean, it's crazy. We're talking MSRPs of $50 and they're selling for $200. Like, it's crazy. Like just bananas, and everybody wants in on it, and good luck finding any of that stuff at Walmart's or Target's.
The only thing I wanted to touch on, which I thought was hilarious, was I've been very vocal about what's going on with Twitch and the DMCA strikes, where streamers have been streamers have received punishment for playing music on their streams, playing their own music on their streams. We've seen stories of actual like professional singers who cannot even play their own music. People have been penalized for playing the game music that comes with the games they're playing.
Yep.
We've seen people penalized for singing, like just you're streaming, you're feeling good, you're having a sing-along, and it just keeps getting more humiliating. There was a Twitch gaming channel that was, I guess, sponsored by Twitch itself, had a live concert of Metallica and played music over it because they didn't want a DMCA strike. Like, how embarrassing is that when on a Twitch, it was for BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And it's just so silly and so stupid. And it was just really emblematic of how ludicrous this is.
I mean,
just, like,
it was
really...
It was the ultimate irony because Metallica were the original band that went completely nuts over Napster, dragged everybody into court, made sure all this stuff was put in front of God and everybody, and like, well, you kind of asked for this.
Yeah,
Here
so
we
on
go.
the official Twitch gaming channel, you had to cover it up to cover your ass. Like, I feel bad for you. Like,
I would like to touch on an article on SportsIllustrated.com.
Oh boy.
About Cassius Marsh opening his own card store.
That's awesome.
It's not every day that Magic the Gathering is on SI.com, and so I think it's worth referencing. He's opening a card store near my neck of the woods in Westlake Village,
there you go.
In the LA area, and they interviewed Cassius and a number of other people, such as Josh Lee Kwai of the Command Zone podcast, talking about Magic the Gathering on Sports Illustrated.
Are you gonna head down there, Ruben, when things get back to somewhat normal?
It's actually Thousand Oaks is actually kind of far from where I live. I live more in the San Fernando Valley, and Thousand Oaks is like over by like Simi Valley. So
But I have no frame of reference of what you're talking about. 30 minutes,
it's like
40
a
minutes, an hour?
45-minute, maybe an hour in good traffic.
yeah.
So,
couple
like,
things I
it's a
found
bit
really
much.
interesting about this article. So Josh Lee Kwai is interviewed in this towards the middle, and he mentions the figurative brick wall between the terms jock and nerd, and the way that Cassius Marsh really signifies breaking down that wall. Where a lot of us who've been playing Magic for a long time, we really felt like if you were playing Magic, you were a nerd. The jocks had no interest in Magic, and when you look at where geek culture has come from and where it is now, those lines have kind of blurred. Where you can be a football player and top 8 a GP, or you can be, a nerd and be very good at sealed. And those identities really aren't the same anymore. They don't even matter anymore. And I also found it interesting that Josh Lee Kwai indicates that Wizards asked them to bring Cassius onto their first episode of Game Nights with him. And that was interesting that Wizards kind of pulled that little string there. But I do think this is a really good thing. He seems like he has a very good understanding of Magic. He also seems like he's committed to diversity as well. Obviously, Cassius has a great respect for the community. I look forward to seeing what he can do.
I mean, Wizards recognizes that when a very famous, sports star is interested in their game.
Sure.
Look, if Will Smith suddenly wants to play Magic, he's going to be on game nights.
Oh yeah, I mean,
he's going to be on everything.
Negative about it. I just thought it was an
it's
interesting
just
little bit of gossip there.
It is.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
an interesting little factoid that we got from the journalistic folks over at SI. So
absolutely.
That was a nice little story. And they got lucky, I guess, that Cassius is actually just a nice man to play Magic with, too, as opposed to, some big ego NFL jerk that doesn't really probably exist.
I saw him at GP Vegas, but I didn't want to bother him because he already kind of had a crowd or whatever. So I didn't go butt in or nothing. But yeah, I mean, he was gracious to everybody as far as I can tell, and seems pretty fantastic.
He's the couple times I've had brief interactions with him, he's been nothing but nice. So he's a quiet dude, honestly. So,
all right, as we turn the corner here to the finisher, Magic YouTuber Ein recently got Magic Chatter revving with their video, The Name Economy, Magic the Gathering's Hidden Crisis, that we talked about earlier. In it, they state that it's not the reserved list, but instead the dictionary's limitation that is the truest threat to Magic. Now, we're some creative folks, so help alleviate Ein's worst fears and tell me your best concise Magic card name of the future. Aaron?
All right. Well, the word shade means something in Magic the Gathering. We have Eisen Shade, Nantuko Shade, Thirsting Shade. Hey. Horse Shade. Hello.
Whoa.
And you get it. Show. And shade also means something in common slang. So I'm looking forward to what will absolutely be my invitational card, a new 1/1 that pumps for a black and can fling itself, the Rowing Shade.
Ooh. Oh, that's good. That's good.
I'd like that.
Throwing shade. That's just what we're doing here at the tournament. Ruben?
Well, burn spells are tough. We already have Blaze, Char, Flare, Singe, Combust, Earthquake, Fry, and Zap. Hell, we even have a card named Burn already. So what's the next big one-word burn spell? Well, only the coolest of Elder Millennial slang will do. The next colorless and red 3 damage instant. It's lit, fam.
Oh my god. Lit it. Lit the bird. Lit the bird. That's what we do here. Look, one of the biggest cruxes of Ein's argument was the lack of good counterspell options. Cancel, Gainsay, and Daze have given way to don't or didn't say please and deny the divine. But there's one word that the Zennials will absolutely consider to be the last word in counterspells. Period. That's right. Deal with it. Here, just throw that sucker on the battlefield. Do it. It's great.
So just so you guys know, we had to show Evan how to say period in the pre-show.
Listen,
just so you know.
I didn't know if Evan knew.
You don't send me
Evan,
into that kind of cave
Peridot.
blind.
Like he probably would have. You don't know. You never know. I mean, we didn't know that. We didn't know that Huatua would be a problem, but here we are. It's
true.
You know, a man, one Hua, one Tua, and I was out. I couldn't handle it anymore.
Oh my god.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next week.
Absolutely. Moving here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and our newest sponsor, Altersleeves. Get yours at altersleeves.com/magicmics, or bump that Patreon to $10 or more by the end of the month to get a sweet code there. My co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics.